Hi, everyone. It's been absolutely great being here in Riga. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your talks. I personally learned so much, so thank you for all of that. And I'm definitely taking a lot of information back to our team back in Singular, and definitely going to use those recordings to be like, guys, you need to learn this. Did you see this? So thank you so much for that. As you were mentioned, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. You're going to have to give me a little bit. I'm Pamela. It's really nice to meet you. I'm a functional architect. So what do? I basically go to clients, and clients tell me, I need this is my problem. And I translate that into actual necessities and priorities for our development teams. So that's basically my role. A lot of you here are much more tech savvy than I am. I am a techie at heart, but I need that. So I basically, as a role of being a functional architect, is that one of my main points is that I like to turn complex things into something simple. Okay, so I wanted to show you one of our use cases. Okay, can't say names, so I'm going to talk about things in general. All the data you're going to see is not real. Okay, so let's meet the client. So we've been working with a multinational company, and they are in the retail and fashion industry. They have over 1,500 locations worldwide, and they have been working in Jira for over 10 years, meaning that they previously were in server. They went through a migration before DC came in, translated into cloud, had other teams who were working in Jira, found out about it, decided to do a cloud-to-cloud migration, and now here we are. They find themselves with an instance which just has way too much information, fields everywhere, dashboards everywhere. It's just copy and paste from the other instances because they want everyone to kind of work together. So we were contacted by them, and they said, hey, we need help. I mean, we tried to manage this ourselves. We can't do it. So I really have no visibility of what's going on. I don't know how teams are working. I don't know how I'm able to merge them together. It's really difficult to kind of see all of this information and say, sure, we'll sort it out for you. No problem. So this is where eazyBI comes in. We do have dashboards created in-house where we kind of help out to see what's going on in the instances, because there are certain tools in the Jira ecosystem, let's say, that don't give all of the information that we want, and we're able to come to conclusions coming from that. So eazyBI really helps us out with that. But I'm not going to focus on those reports, because I'm going to focus a little bit more on what we did for the client themselves. So we got hands-on, and using these reports, we started analyzing those Jira fields. We started looking at those Jira spaces, what information is being used, what's not. We even took a look at velocity, meaning that how much is updated versus created, things of the sort like that, and the actual dashboards to see who was accessing them, who wasn't, what's being used, all of that. And then we kind of started seeing a pattern, and we said, wait a second, this isn't just about overwhelming data. It's not that they don't have enough information, it's because they're missing data. So one of the key things, especially when it comes to using eazyBI, is understanding that the data set that you're going to be using, or everything you're importing, is actually clear and valuable. And that's huge. So we were able to kind of see that. So how did we figure this out? Well, basically, when we started analyzing it, and we talked to the different teams, and et cetera, we started actually having questions coming from about the information being given by the client, and the information being shown in Jira. And suddenly we're seeing, wait, so who handles what? This Jira space, who does that belong to? Who's creating this? Well, I don't know. And then even teams between themselves, they didn't know who was doing what. No, I'm just working on this task. This was assigned to me. Like, wait a second. So you're telling me that it's completely disconnected. And then also at the same time, when we were asking for those meetings, we were being put off. They kept saying, no, I have this fire I need to put out. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that, all of that. So then suddenly we started seeing that teams were actually working on a reactive level. They were constantly putting fires out. So second conclusion, there was definitely a high stress value being there, which was being overlaid already for all the bureaucracy that they already had to deal with inside their Atlassian instance. But then, on the other hand, when we were talking to stakeholders, they were saying, oh yeah, everything's going great. I mean, the reports that we already have in eazyBI shows us that this is absolutely wonderful. I mean, our bottom line is awesome. And we're like, wait a second, you're missing data. This is not good data. There's information that you're building that's not there. You're missing the whole picture. So we had a plan. We needed to make what was invisible visible. That was the main thing we wanted to do. So we set off on 4 main objectives. So first one was to identify report actors. What we started noticing is that a lot of the reports that they already had built were actually just based mainly on metrics. I'm going to measure this because I just want to measure it. But there was no objective behind it. They weren't able to measure their OKRs or the actual KPIs and what that value was being given to them. Then the second one is that we wanted to define the data owners. Who owned what Jira space, who was filling out what, etc. And then work visibility. We wanted to make sure that even though they were already using tools like Tempo timesheets to log time, that they were able to see where those efforts were going to, and if that logged time was actually given something valuable back. And finally, the metric strategy. We were going to help them set up those OKRs and those KPIs before looking at the actual metrics, and seeing if the current metrics that they were actually measuring were actually valuable to the specific OKR. So we started off with that. So first thing we did was that they already counted with a tool called Projectrak by Dazer. So Projectrak, basically what it does is that it allows you to create, let's say, properties at a space level. You're able to pull information and say, oh, this space has this information. Plus, it has a direct connector with eazyBI, which was another clear point for us that we wanted to use this tool. And so here, they already counted with 2 specific fields at a space level, which was the owner, team, and area, but they weren't filled in. We're like, wait, so someone already had the initial idea, but didn't actually go through with it. Plus, they weren't pulling that information into eazyBI. So then we said, okay, let's fill that in. Let's help you guys fill that out, and we're going to help you fill in. And then, since we already counted with Projectrak, we actually started using it for all the developments as well. We were able to create it and say, hey, is this feature implemented here or not? So things such as if the team is actually following on blockers, or if the team has some type of mechanism to follow and deprioritized, we were able to pull that information in, so that way we were also able to sort it out into reports. So in my blockers report, I'm able to say, this Jira space does handle the blockers, and this one doesn't, but this other team does. And I'm able to pull that information from the reports. Then we went into Tempo timesheets, and we said, we're going to do 3 really quick changes to the way that you guys are logging, apart from teams and all of that, and et cetera. And there were 3 main things. First thing is that we set the work log description as optional. That's the first things first. We wanted to make sure that people were logging time and that it was easy for them to log time, that they weren't having to specify. And then we added 2 specific attributes to the work logs. Why this? Because again, going back to those reports in eazyBI, we knew that we could easily pull this information in and match it up with the reports that they already had and give them extra value. So the first thing we did is add a business office. This is to see where the resource was going to. I'm not talking about, for example, just development or et cetera, is if you have a meeting, who's this meeting for? Who asked for it? Where is it going? So your time, whose budget is it under? And then the second one was adding a category to say what kind of work you're doing. So then from this, and then especially with sponsors, we were able to start actually getting actual information, which coming from the work logs. And then here comes the beauty of it. We went with the OKRs. Now that we have that set up, we know that that missing information is already in there. Now let's set up our objectives. So usually when you tend to define an objective or an OKR, you tend to follow a very simple formula. I will blah, blah, as measured by blah, blah. Okay? So you would say, like, for example, I will increase my allocated budget, for example, as measured by Okay, it's kind of like a little formula. So this PMO team, what they explained to us is that they're actually not an assertive PMO team. They're a supportive PMO team, meaning that they support teams. And a lot of their PMs were coming in from the Scrum methodology. So we said, wait, so I see where you're going here. When you initially started defining those metrics, you were more focused on how you're able to do it because you're looking at it from a technical level, and you weren't thinking of the person. So let's change the prompt. And we added like a story, like a user story. As such and such person, I will do this. And I helped them change the focus. So we did a little dynamic with them, and we told them, okay, so let's sort this out. And eventually, we created a pretty nice table, okay, and this is just part of it, where we kind of said, okay, so what's our OKR? So we're going to monitor economic impact on the business area. Who are our actors? Specific KPIs, and then let's take a look at the metrics. What's going to help and support that KPI? So, and this is what helped us build those reports. So here's our base. Our client is actually sold into it. They understand what the value was of that report. And then notice that right at the end, we have like little statuses there. So you have like blocked, already measured, in progress. This is also to show them where the information was missing. So things like already measured means that we either created a report already for them, or that they already had some type of gadget or report that they could pull from, be it from a native Jira gadget or from some other tool that they were already using. Anything that was in progress is because we were building. But then if we had something that was blocked, it's because that information was missing. We either did not have access to it inside the Atlassian ecosystem, or because we could not access it and import it into eazyBI due to, well, security regulations, so on and so forth. That means that we need to get approvals. For example, in the initiative workload progress per budget area, well, that's budgets. We're going to need a lot of OKs to bring in all of that information, for sure. But it means that we need that information. So let's see if that's possible. But it gave them insight on what was their part versus what was our part. So then we started bringing it all together. We started creating dashboards, all of them through the eazyBI gadgets, because we didn't want users that weren't used to using eazyBI going into eazyBI directly. So we added them into Jira dashboards. This was also easier for the adoption, especially with technical teams who were just, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not going to go into another app. Wait, it's already in there, so you're able to see it already. And if you really want to go into it, you're able to link directly into the report and see it and play along with it and all of that. Plus, what was even really great is that they actually had filters, which before they weren't able to actually manipulate before. So then these are two sample reports. One of them is based on the eazyBI demo. We basically pulled from it, and we saw this is awesome. They're going to love this. Showed it to them like, this is awesome. We love it. Add it in. And then the other one we built was an average cycle time when we did the gauges. And one of the things from Nimble Solutions, they mentioned yesterday, was that one of the big problems that you tend to have, especially for Jira workflows, is that you don't have a resolution date. Because people forget to add a resolution when they close a ticket, right? But we found out eazyBI counts with the average closing date. So with the average closing days and being able to define what statuses count as closing, we were able to set up this report. So that was great. And then we set up other reports in order to give visibility to also teams. For example, we showed percentage of work by issue type. Okay? So what did this show? Initially, when we talked to the stakeholders, they said, everything's absolutely great. And then we showed them this report. No, it's not. You were saying that people were actually being stuck in bugs, epics, stories, having to define it, that the problem was at the beginning. Wait a second. Your teams are starting to have overload with their daily tasks. Your teams are being overwhelmed with escalated tasks from other teams. That's what it represents for them there. And notice, that's a 72% there. That's huge. So then suddenly, that narrative that they initially said, no, hey, everything's going great, it's just that things are siloed off. No, wait, it's because your priorities are not being sorted. So they were able to get that from the BI reports we created. And then the second one we start, which is one of them that we kind of merged, this is one of them that we pulled from using those new fields, especially from Tempo timesheets and from Projectrak, where in this case, we were able to see the percentage of hours spent from the work logs based on what team is currently working on it. And this, like I said, I'm not that great at tech savvy. This is huge kudos to my teammate, Bernardo, who is an absolute wizard at MDX. And I would have loved him to be here, but huge shout out to him, because he was able to set all of this up. And basically what he did was that, based on another report that we were already doing, which was, he was able to get the total spent hours from the current owner team. And then from that, he was able to create the percentages for hours by initiative. And you might say, why are you using, for the formatting, in a separate report specific and not putting it here? This is because we're actually pulling this information in another report where we need to see the data. So we're just able to do the calculation later. So what did they gain from all of this? Well, basically the insight is that they were able to actually understand what was actually happening with their data. And being able to see that, yes, it's siloed off, and they were able to give that information back to teams as well. But then they're also able to see their pain points much more clearly. Your teams are reactive because requests are coming in from multiple sources. It's not just coming in from create a request. It's the emails. It's the Microsoft Team chats. It's the phone call. It's I'm going for a coffee. I'm like, hey, do you have a quick minute? Then teams were running into problems refining their requests. We were able to get statuses and see that suddenly they were stuck in a backlog for a really, really, really long time. So what's going on there? Teams, talking about backlogs, they had a low visibility of what's actually a priority because everything was a priority. Then teams were running into a lot of blockers because suddenly we would have different requesters that sent, you saw tickets ping pong back and forth from in progress back to refining, and from refining back to in progress, and back and forth. So priorities, the initial requirements were changing constantly. So, and then with Tempo timesheets, suddenly they saw, wait, teams are working overtime just to meet all of this demand. When before, I thought everyone was working 8 hours a day. So what comes next, right? So from all of this insight that they completely loved, we set up a new plan. So stage one. Let's bring into that adoption. We need to bring business units and key stakeholders into Jira, so then they're able to understand all of this information that's also coming in and contribute to that workflow. It's not only coming in from the outside, you're able to come in from the inside, and integrate AI. Things such as some of the agents that we were able to see for eazyBI would be great for them to be able to create those reports as well, and include it into their own team's workflows. Second, financial transparency. Bring budgeting functionalities into Jira, which once approved and all of that, so we're able to mix that information into reports. That way and you might ask, why not just import that Excel? Well, importing that Excel would mean that everyone understands how every field should be filled in, and we want to control and make sure that the information is coming in cleanly. And include that financial data into the existing reporting in eazyBI. And finally, we want to scale environment. We want to scale those AI workflows. We don't just want you to go into ChatGPT or Copilot and put it in. Let's bring that information also into Jira and do that. And you want to establish reports on the AI guardrails, saying, okay, so if AI has changed this, I don't know if you guys saw in Team that now you're able to assign agents into tasks, then if I add them into those tasks, then what the AI did, was it correct? What are the guardrails, and how is that going to measure it? And all of that coming into eazyBI as well. So thank you so much.
Yes, Gerda, it's flying to you.
Thank you for sharing the customer story before eazyBI, like how to bring all the data. And my question is, how long it took to make everybody on the same page with Jira cleanup? And what was the feedback from the users, how hard it was? Because I think that is the hardest part, to change the process. Because when you bring it in eazyBI clean data, well, it's, you can import different data. And,
Well, we didn't want it to be a shock to teams, definitely, like you mentioned. So it was a process of a scaled process. So we started off with pilot teams, and then once pilot team, we were able to refine the process which worked best for them, getting their feedback. We were able to scale it on to the rest of the team. We did count with very, very strong stakeholders, especially in place in the different offices, in order to help us out with that. Overall, I would say that cleanup of the instance took us about a month and a half, more or less, especially with those meetings. And we did count with a large team, especially on the client side, which was supporting us on that.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so just sketch it.
Thanks. I'd like to share a story, which is really similar to what you showed here. So I used to work in a marketing department that was essentially an internal agency at a company serving 5 different business lines. So the time tracking needs were really tight because we needed to report costs, which project, which stakeholder, and so on and so forth. And we had a problem shortly after implementing Tempo that we were reporting too low amount of billable hours. And then we implemented structure on top of that. And we added a couple of measures just as you showed, And, we didn't change anything in our workflows. We just added a couple of new measures and, the numbers instantly went up.
Yeah.
So, a couple of small tweaks can really go a long way.
Definitely.
It's not a question, but I thought it's relevant here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And I have one question to you.
Sure.
What are the names of your cats? Because I saw it on the slide.
They're called Momo and Mai.
Nice. Nice. Thanks again for your great use case presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.